What if everything you've ever believed about hard work was a lie? What if the long nights, the endless hustle, the sacrifices were part of a game designed to keep you running in place? You've been told since childhood that hard work is the key. That if you grind long enough, success will come. But look around. Are the hardest workers the ones living the life you want? Or are they the ones barely surviving, exhausted, unseen, and used up? This isn't laziness talking. This is the brutal truth you were never supposed to hear, because the system isn't broken. It was built this way. You were trained to believe that effort equals reward, so you would never stop and ask who actually benefits from your effort. While you bleed to climb the ladder, someone else is sitting at the top, watching. This isn't about quitting. It's about waking up. You've been programmed to equate struggle with virtue. That suffering somehow makes you good, noble, even worthy. But pain without purpose is slavery. If your effort doesn't move you closer to real power, then what are you really doing? Think about how many people work themselves into the ground, waiting for a breakthrough that never comes. They follow the rules, stay loyal, give their all, and still get discarded when they're no longer useful. That's not failure, that's betrayal. You were set up to believe that the grind will save you, but grinding only matters if you're sharpening a blade. Machiavelli understood something most people never will. Hard work by itself is meaningless. Power isn't earned by those who try hardest. It's taken by those who see clearly. You don't get ahead by being the most exhausted. You get ahead by being the most strategic. The masses are kept busy for a reason. Because the moment you stop and start thinking differently, you become dangerous. You stop playing their game. You start designing your own. Right now, you have a choice. Continue doing what they expect. Keep working, keep hoping, keep waiting, or pause, look deeper, and finally ask, is my effort serving my future or someone else's comfort? This one question can change everything. Because when you stop worshiping hard work, you start building power, you start valuing results over routines, you start moving with precision instead of pressure. And that's when life begins to shift, not slowly but violently, toward what you actually want. Stay with this message. Because by the end of this video, you won't just be inspired, you'll be armed. With clarity, with courage, and with the strategy they never wanted you to know. This isn't about motivation. It's about liberation. The grind didn't fail you. It lied to you. And once you see the lie, you can finally break it. So don't look away. Don't fall back asleep. Your awakening starts now. If they can keep you busy, they don't need to keep you powerful. That's the secret. They've designed the world to reward motion, not mastery. They want you distracted by effort, obsessed with hours, addicted to the appearance of progress. Because if you ever paused long enough to question the system, you'd realize it's not built to make you rise. It's built to make you serve. Look at the average life. Wake up, grind, come home exhausted, repeat. No time to think, no time to plan, no time to strategize. Just enough energy left to numb yourself before doing it all over again. That's not living. That's being kept. Controlled, domesticated. And the more you buy into the glorification of constant work, the deeper the trap becomes. They praise your hustle because it makes you predictable. They call you a team player because you never say no. They promote your obedience, not your intelligence. And they tell you it's noble to suffer in silence while you build someone else's dream. You don't need more discipline. You need a different direction. You were born with the ability to dominate your environment, but they buried that instinct under layers of guilt, fear, and false morality. They taught you that questioning the path is laziness, that stepping back is weakness, that wanting more is greed. And now you're stuck in a loop, trading your time for approval, your energy for acceptance, your life for a paycheck that barely keeps you afloat. But here's the truth. The powerful don't grind. They orchestrate. They manipulate the hardworking into building their empires while they move silently behind the curtain. You think they're smarter? They're not. They're just unchained. While you were learning how to work harder, they were learning how to position themselves above the noise. They don't glorify struggle, they weaponize it. They understand that control comes not from doing everything yourself, but from influencing those who do. If you want to escape, you need to become ruthless with your time. You must learn to protect your mental space like it's your last breath. Because it is. Every moment you spend in blind effort is a moment stolen from your potential. And you don't get that time back. Stop chasing validation through exhaustion. Stop being the person everyone depends on. Depend on yourself. Choose to rise above the fog of constant motion and see the bigger game that's being played. You are not a machine. You are not a mule. You are not here to carry the weight of a world that doesn't care if you break. You're here to win. Not for them, for you. And that starts with cutting the chains disguised as expectations. Let them praise your sacrifice. Let them call you lazy. Let them misunderstand your silence. Just make sure that while they're clapping for your effort, you're building something real, quietly, strategically, powerfully. Because in the end, it's not the loudest worker who wins. It's the sharpest mind. You've been lied to about what it takes to win. They told you to work harder and to be the first one in and the last one out. To grind until you collapse and then grind some more. But they never told you the truth, that the game isn't about how much you do. It's about how well you move. Power doesn't reward those who suffer the most. It rewards those who think the sharpest. Strategic laziness isn't weakness. It's intelligence. It's the art of doing only what matters with maximum impact and minimum effort. Not because you're lazy, but because you refuse to be drained by tasks that don't build you. You don't need to prove anything through exhaustion. You don't need to run yourself into the ground to feel worthy. That's the trap. That's how they keep you small, by conditioning you to believe that the more pain you endure, the more success you deserve. But life doesn't care how tired you are. It only responds to results. And results come from clarity, not chaos. The ones who rise are not the ones who move the most. They're the ones who move with purpose. You're not here to burn yourself out chasing approval. You're here to learn how to move with lethal precision. To know when to act, when to wait, and when to walk away. To focus on the one action that creates the ripple effect, not the 10 that change nothing. This is the shift from worker to weapon, from busy to dangerous. You stop measuring your value in sweat and start measuring it in outcomes. And that begins the moment you stop confusing movement with progress. They won't understand it. They'll call you lazy when you don't participate in the endless cycle. Let them. They don't see the war you're preparing for. Because the truly powerful are often invisible until it's too late. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to defend your stillness. You are learning how to conserve your energy for moves that actually matter. That's what separates the hunted from the hunter. Most people spend their lives reacting. You are learning to act deliberately, ruthlessly, effectively. This is not about doing less. It's about doing better, cutting the noise, eliminating the distractions, refusing to be another pawn in someone else's game. Because every second you waste on meaningless work is a second stolen from your legacy. You were not born to chase. You were born to conquer, but only if you stop glorifying the grind and start glorifying the outcome. You don't get points for being tired. You get points for impact. Make yours count. You are not lazy. You are awakening. And when you move again, you will move like a storm, calculated, silent, and unstoppable. That's the power of working less and winning more. You were taught to believe that success is fair. That if you just do your part, wait your turn, and work harder than the rest, life will eventually reward you. But that's not how power works. That's not how reality works. The world doesn't give people what they deserve. It gives them what they take. While you're grinding to prove your worth, someone else is skipping the line with leverage, not labor. They're not working harder. They're working above you. They figured out that it's not about effort. It's about position, timing, and control. The lie of deserved success is the most dangerous myth you were ever sold. You've seen it. People who give everything yet still stay invisible. Years of loyalty. And they're discarded in seconds. Meanwhile, those who understand the system play it like chess. They move in silence, build alliances, craft perception, and they win. Not because they earned it in sweat, but because they mastered the field. You're not losing because you lack discipline. You're losing because you're playing the wrong game. You're speaking the language of effort in a world that listens only to influence. Stop measuring your value by how much you do. Start measuring it by how much power your actions generate. That's the difference between being remembered and being replaced. The myth that effort guarantees reward keeps you docile, keeps you grinding, keeps you afraid to question the rules. But the truth is simple, no one is coming to save you. No one is handing out crowns for the most exhausted. You either rise by design or you fall by default. This is the moment you stop begging for what you've earned and start taking what you've built. Not through blind aggression, but through surgical thinking. Through understanding that you are not here to be liked, you are here to be respected. You are not here to suffer quietly, you are here to rise ruthlessly. Every second spent trying to prove yourself is a second spent away from building something that makes proof unnecessary. You don't need permission to evolve, you don't need validation to take control. What you need is clarity, and to see through the illusion that work is enough, that being good is enough, that patience is power. Patience without strategy is surrender. Goodness without boundaries is exploitation. And hard work without control is slavery. Burn that into your mind. You are done waiting for life to recognize your effort. You are done hoping the world will finally be fair. From now on, you move with intent. You speak with purpose. You act with precision because you understand what they don't. Success isn't earned, it's engineered. And the moment you let go of the myth, you become free to build the truth. A truth where your life bends to your will, not your labor, where your destiny isn't delayed. It's designed. Starting now, you are not falling behind because you're not working hard enough. You're falling behind because you haven't yet owned your mind. That's where every battle begins. And ends. The world convinces you to sell your attention, your emotions, your energy for scraps of comfort and false praise. You're told to stay busy, stay agreeable, stay productive. But productivity without direction is just slavery wearing a suit. If your energy isn't building something that makes you independent, it's being stolen, piece by piece, day by day, until you forget that your time is your life and your life is not for sale. You were not born to be another obedient piece of machinery. You were not built to exist in someone else's blueprint. You are here to design reality, not survive it. But you cannot do that while you're owned by distractions, manipulated by guilt, and chained by outdated beliefs. The belief that sacrifice guarantees reward, that waiting earns you respect. That endurance is always noble. Sometimes enduring is just another form of avoidance. Avoiding your power, avoiding your truth. Avoiding the terrifying realization that your life is yours and no one else will shape it for you. There is no safety in hard work if it lacks direction. There is no pride in being exhausted when you're going nowhere. You've been tricked into wearing your suffering like a badge. But struggle is only valuable if it's taking you somewhere worth going. Most people aren't climbing a mountain. They're running on a treadmill going nowhere faster. That's not progress. That's distraction. It looks noble, it feels virtuous, but it leads to nothing but quiet despair. Now is when you reclaim control. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. The system was designed to keep you moving just enough to prevent you from rebelling. It rewards obedience, not greatness. It praises compliance, not clarity. But clarity is your weapon. When you finally see the game, you stop playing it by their rules. You stop trading your freedom for approval. You stop apologizing for wanting more. And you start creating from a place of ruthless self-honesty. The only path forward is the one you build, deliberately, intelligently, fearlessly. That means cutting off what doesn't serve. That means walking away from what drains you. That means stepping into a version of yourself that no longer needs external permission to rise. You are not here to be used. You are here to use your mind, your strategy, your time. Not to survive, but to dominate. Not to beg, but to become. You will not be remembered for how tired you were. You will be remembered for how powerfully you moved when you finally woke up. And right now you are waking up, not into the illusion of effort, but into the truth of control. The truth that you don't need to work harder. You need to move smarter. And once that shift begins, there is no going back. Only forward, relentlessly, unapologetically, unstoppably. Every empire begins with a decision. I will no longer live like this. That's the moment everything changes. Not when you get more motivated, not when someone gives you permission, but when you finally reach your threshold. When the exhaustion turns into clarity, when the silence turns into strategy. When you stop asking, how do I survive this? And start asking, when this set mindset is rare because most people are still trapped in the illusion that effort is virtue. You're here to be victorious. And victory doesn't come from following the crowd, it comes from thinking above it. You don't rise by doing what everyone else does. You rise by doing what they refuse to do. You analyze, you detach, you restructure. You look at your daily life and rip it apart until only the essential remains. You ask, where is my energy going? And if the answer isn't building your power, you cut it. No hesitation, no apology, because anything that doesn't serve your elevation is part of your destruction. And once you understand that, mediocrity becomes unbearable. You weren't born with chains, but you were taught how to wear them. Chains made of guilt for wanting more. Chains made of shame for moving differently. Chains made of fear that if you stop grinding, you'll lose everything. But you lose more by staying in the grind than by walking away from it. You lose time, you lose purpose, you lose yourself. That is the hidden cost of obedience, the quiet death that happens when you confuse movement with meaning and duty with destiny. You're not obligated to live in patterns that don't evolve you. You don't owe anyone your stagnation. Every decision must be filtered through one brutal question. Does this make me stronger? If it doesn't, it's a distraction. And most distractions come dressed as obligations. That's how they trap you. That's how they keep you tired, confused, and too drained to rebel. But your rebellion is not. Every action you take from this point forward becomes a brick in the foundation of your new identity. Not who they want you to be, not who you've been pretending to be, but who you were always meant to be. The architect, the ruler, the force, the standard. You don't rise by working harder. You rise by thinking sharper. The world is filled with men grinding their lives away, hoping discipline alone will rescue them. But discipline without direction is delusion. It feels noble because it hurts. It feels righteous because it exhausts. But pain without progress is just self-destruction in disguise. You weren't put here to break yourself for crumbs. You were put here to build yourself into something no one can ignore. Not through suffering, but through strategy. A ruthless, intelligent, unapologetic strategy. Every hour you spend must be an investment, not a sacrifice. If it doesn't bring you clarity, control, or power, it's a cost you cannot afford. And most people are paying that cost every day. They wake up in lives they hate, filled with duties they didn't choose, chasing goals they didn't create, and wonder why they feel hollow. That emptiness is not failure, it's feedback. It's your soul rejecting a life that doesn't fit your potential. And until you answer that signal, you will suffer. Not because you're weak, but because you're living beneath your truth. The real war is not with others. It's with distraction, with comfort, with the part of you that wants to be liked more than respected. That's the part that keeps you working hard on the wrong things. The part that confuses approval with purpose. The part that will drag you into exhaustion just to feel accepted. You must kill that part. Not gently, not slowly. Kill it with clarity. Replace it with the version of you that doesn't flinch. The version that sees every hour as a weapon, every decision as a move, every action as a brick in the empire you're building, not for applause, but for power. You don't need more motivation. You need more alignment. Motivation fades, but alignment turns every second into fuel. It gives you a reason so clear, nothing can shake it. You stop chasing results and start creating inevitability. Not by doing more, but by doing what matters. That shift will separate you from 99% of people. They'll still be running. You'll be rising. They'll still be busy. You'll be dangerous. Because you've realized the truth, it's not about being tired. It's about being used. And from now on, nothing uses you, not fear, not shame, not anyone else's agenda. You're done handing your life to people who wouldn't bleed for you. You're done working for outcomes that don't feed your vision. You're done pretending that burnout is noble. You don't need to burn. You need to build, and you are building with focus, with force, with the kind of cold precision that turns ordinary men into legends. Every thought now serves your rise. Every choice reflects your mission. Every second becomes sacred, because now you don't chase success. You command it, and from this moment on, nothing you do is random. Everything is warfare, strategic, calculated, dominant. There comes a moment where you stop chasing what looks powerful and start building what is powerful. No more pretending, no more borrowed dreams, no more copying the noise of the world and mistaking it for meaning. Because deep down, you've always known you weren't built for imitation, you were built for domination. But domination doesn't begin with louder effort. It begins with brutal self-control, with mastering your mind, with making your emotions obey your vision. That's the level no one talks about. The level where success isn't an accident. It's a calculated consequence. Most people lose not because they're incapable, but because they're untrained. Their thoughts are wild. Their habits are scattered. Their actions betray their own future. They live in loops, not because they want to, but because they lack the discipline to break the pattern. That's the real enemy, not the system, not the struggle, but the internal chaos that keeps you cycling back into weakness. You don't beat chaos by working more. Precision, direction, command. You make your life so structured, so intentional, that chaos has nowhere left to live. And that begins with killing the addiction to noise. The need to always be busy. The fear of silence. Because in silence, you see yourself. In stillness, the truth surfaces. And most people can't handle that truth. They can't handle seeing how much of their energy is wasted, how much of their potential is buried under distractions that feel important but mean nothing. But you can handle it. You're not here to be entertained. You're here to evolve. That means stepping out of the cycle. That means cutting off everything that doesn't push you toward your higher self. The man who builds his own system never needs to beg for a seat at someone else's table. He becomes the table. He becomes the source. Books. He becomes the one others watch in silence, wondering how he did it. But there is no secret. There's only subtraction. You remove everything that weakens you. Every person, every thought, every habit. You strip it all down until only the essential remains. And from that raw foundation, you build something unshakable. A life designed, not inherited. A direction chosen, not imposed. A legacy that doesn't depend on luck, timing, or approval, only execution. This is what separates the architect from the follower, the leader from the worker. The legend from the forgotten. One sees the truth and rewrites the script. The other waits for permission to feel alive. You're done waiting. You're done asking. You've already chosen. You've already decided that from this point forward, every breath, every move, every hour is a tool, a weapon, a command. Because you are no longer a worker, you are a builder, and builders don't beg. They don't chase, they don't wish. They create from discipline, from clarity, from total psychological war against every limitation that ever tried to break them. There is no greatness without subtraction. You don't add power, you strip weakness. You don't find clarity, you remove confusion. And you don't become elite by piling on more work. You become elite by eliminating everything that dulls your edge. That includes the false beliefs you've carried for years. The lie that hard work alone is enough. The lie that discipline guarantees success. The lie that your grind will eventually be rewarded just because you endured it. That's the myth they sell to keep you compliant, to keep you exhausted, to keep you harmless. But you didn't come here to survive. You came here to win. And winning demands a different level of self-respect. It demands that you stop measuring your value by how much effort you give and start measuring it by how much leverage you create. Leverage over your time, over your mind, over the environment that shapes you. The man with leverage doesn't need to convince anyone of his worth. He doesn't need to burn out to be seen. He's already positioned, already decided, already dangerous. The deeper you go into yourself, the clearer the mission becomes. This isn't about ambition anymore. It's about warfare. A war between who you are and who the world wants you to be. A war between your vision and your excuses. A war between your empire and your comfort. And in war, mercy toward weakness is betrayal toward your future. You don't pamper what holds you back. You don't comfort the parts of you that crave escape. You confront them. You dismantle them. And you rebuild something cold, focused, and unstoppable. That's how power is born, not in suffering for approval, but in creating structure that makes approval irrelevant. A man who builds discipline into his identity doesn't need to force himself to act. His habits move for him. His environment works for him. His identity protects him. He doesn't wake up wondering what to do. He wakes up becoming who he already decided to be. There's no hesitation, no bargaining, no loopholes, just execution. And that execution compounds into results so undeniable the world can't look away. But most never reach this level because it requires a level of psychological violence most aren't willing to commit. Not against others, against the weaker self, against the need to be liked. Against the addiction to praise, against the comfort of being average, you must burn the idea that life owes you something. Burn the myth that effort alone is virtue. Burn the identity that was shaped by fear and carve a new one from truth, from purpose, from warrior logic. You are not here to be remembered for how tired you were. You are here to be remembered for what you built, what you crushed, and what you became in the process. Not a worker, not a dreamer. A weaponized mind, forged in clarity, driven by design, and free from the chains of empty struggle. This is where the real power begins.